In a quiet corner of town, a group of bikers thought they could intimidate anyone they pleased. Little did they know they were about to meet their match. Sarah, a petite woman with a fierce spirit, was enjoying a peaceful evening at her favorite restaurant when the bikers swaggered in, loud and disrespectful. Their taunts filled the air, drawing uneasy glances from other diners. Sarah, usually calm and composed, felt a surge of indignation. Ignoring their jeers, she calmly finished her meal. But as she got up to leave, one of the bikers blocked her path, sneering. The tension was palpable. With a steely gaze, Sarah's response surprised everyone, setting the stage for a showdown that would leave the bikers regretting their arrogance. Sarah's calm demeanor only seemed to fuel the bikers' arrogance. The leader, a burly man with a leather jacket and a smirk, leaned in closer as if daring her to react. But Sarah wasn't the type to make a scene, at least not yet. She took a slow step back, her eyes steady, scanning the group as though calculating her next move. The restaurant's atmosphere was thick with unease. A few customers whispered nervously, unsure whether to intervene or stay out of it. The manager, hesitant to confront the rowdy group, stood frozen behind the counter. What the bikers didn't realize was that Sarah wasn't an ordinary woman. She had a past she rarely spoke of, that had taught her how to handle situations like this. Her silence wasn't fear, it was strategy. As the leader blocked her path, Sarah's fingers brushed the edge of her purse, where she kept something far more powerful than a weapon, her wits and a sharp sense of justice. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink, and that threw him off just enough to shift the dynamic. Behind her, a young waitress peeked nervously from the kitchen, clearly torn between fear and wanting to help. Meanwhile, one of the bikers laughed, muttering something crude under his breath. The comment wasn't loud enough for the others to hear, but Sarah caught it. Her jaw tightened, her stance unwavering. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed the restaurant's patrons slowly pulling out their phones, hoping to capture the unfolding drama. But Sarah wasn't interested in putting on a show. She was focused on how to turn the situation to her advantage. The leader's smirk faded as he realized Sarah wasn't intimidated. She stood her ground, her steady gaze cutting through his bravado. "Step aside," she said, her voice calm but firm, like someone who was used to being obeyed. The other bikers exchanged glances, a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Who was this woman who wasn't cowering like everyone else? The tension grew thick as the leader crossed his arms, clearly deciding whether to escalate. One of the bikers chuckled nervously, urging him to let it go, but he wasn't ready to back down. Sarah noticed his hesitation and decided to push further. She tilted her head, a subtle challenge in her expression. The restaurant was silent now, except for the hum of the air conditioner. Everyone waited, breathless, for what would happen next. Just as the leader opened his mouth to respond, the restaurant door swung open, and a tall man in a crisp uniform stepped inside. He scanned the room quickly, his eyes locking on the scene unfolding in the middle of the floor. The badge on his chest gleamed under the overhead lights. A collective breath of relief seemed to ripple through the diners, but Sarah didn't flinch. The officer's gaze flicked to her, and then to the bikers. "Everything all right here?" he asked, his voice steady but commanding. The leader hesitated, his confidence wavering for the first time. Before anyone could answer, another voice rang out from behind the counter. It was the young waitress. "She's been handling it just fine," the waitress said, her voice shaky but brave. The bikers turned toward her, and in that moment of distraction, Sarah made her move. As the bikers turned their attention to the waitress, Sarah acted with precision. She stepped forward, closing the gap between her and the leader in a flash. In a calm but commanding voice, she said, "You've made your point. Now it's my turn." Her words carried a quiet authority that froze him in place. Before the leader could react, Sarah reached into her purse, not for a weapon, but a badge. The restaurant fell into stunned silence as she held it up. "Special investigator," she said, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "And you've just made this a lot worse for yourselves." The officer by the door stepped forward, now clearly working with Sarah. The bikers scrambled, their earlier bravado gone. Just as they started protesting, the officer nodded toward his radio. Backup was already on the way. The twist: Sarah wasn't here by chance. This restaurant had been the scene of repeated incidents, and she had been quietly investigating for weeks. The bikers weren't just harassing diners. They were part of something much bigger. As they were cuffed and led away, Sarah turned to the waitress with a reassuring smile. Sometimes you just have to wait for the right moment to act. As the bikers were escorted out, the tension in the restaurant melted away, replaced by a collective sigh of relief. Sarah thanked the officer with a firm handshake, her calm composure never faltering. The young waitress approached her hesitantly. "You really planned all of this?" she asked, still wide-eyed. Sarah nodded with a small smile. Sometimes standing up doesn't mean shouting the loudest. It's about timing and knowing when to act. Her words lingered in the air, resonating with everyone who had witnessed the scene. The restaurant slowly returned to normal, though the diners couldn't stop whispering about the woman who had outsmarted a group of bikers. Sarah quietly paid her bill and left, her footsteps fading into the night. Behind her, the staff and customers felt a little braver, inspired by her courage.